think I am. There we are. All right. I'm going to come back and we're going to start with some breathing exercises. And again, you may be in your chair. If you're in a chair, I just suggest that you have your feet planted firmly on the ground, that you push your tailbone down into the seat and imagine that the crown of your head is lifting up toward the ceiling. And if you're on the floor in a seated position, if you have a cushion or a blanket that you can roll up, it can be really helpful to have the hips a little bit higher so that the knees can come down further towards the ground. And if your knees are not all the way in the ground, if they're hovering up here, that's perfectly fine. If you feel that your legs are starting to get tired from having your knees up like this, you can always take 2 rolled up blankets or pillows and put them underneath, and that will help to alleviate any kind of strain on the legs. We'll be sitting here for a little bit, so you want to make sure you're very comfortable. So again, in a chair with feet planted firmly on the ground or seated on the ground, however is comfortable for you, with your legs crossed, legs out front, however you're going to be able to maintain the pose for a few minutes. All right, so we're going to start by let's take the shoulders and bring them up toward the ears. And on an exhale, let them drop. Again, inhaling, we'll bring the shoulders up toward the ears. Exhale, and let them drop. One more time, bring the shoulders up on the inhale. Exhaling, letting the shoulders drop. And throughout our practice this evening, we're going to be breathing in and out the nose as much as possible, because breathing in and out the mouth can trigger our sympathetic nervous system, which can actually speed up the heart. And we want to do just the opposite. We want to slow it all down. So breathing in and out the nose as much as you can for our whole practice. Let's go ahead and bring the chin down toward the chest. And then keeping the shoulders relaxed down, we'll roll the right ear over to right shoulder. Exhale, bring the chin forward. Inhale, rotate left ear, left shoulder. Exhaling, come forward. Inhale, right ear, right shoulder. See if you can't keep that left shoulder down. Coming forward. And once more over to the left. Doing a nice openness in the sides of the neck. Exhale, come forward. Inhale, we'll go ahead and we'll bring up the head. On an inhale, we're going to take the right arm, reach it up toward the ceiling as far as it will go. And not everybody's going to have their arm pointing all the way up like this. For some folks, there might be some limited mobility and you might be here. That's perfectly fine. Whatever's getting you a nice stretch here in the side. So wherever you're able to come to, and then we're just going to lean over toward the left. Taking a deep breath in, we'll reach out through the fingers a little bit more, and then on an exhale, sink over to the left just a bit more. Again, inhaling, lengthening, reaching, exhaling, sinking down. And on an inhale, we'll go ahead and bring that right arm up and bring the hand back down to your side if you're in your chair, or touching the floor if you're on the ground. Do the same thing other side. Inhaling, we're going to bring the left arm up. And again, it may not make it all the way up above. That's fine. It might just be out here to the side or somewhere in between. Whatever is right for you is right. We're going to reach up, take a deep breath in, and then on the exhale, slowly coming over toward the right. I'm going to try to keep that left shoulder back as much as possible so that it's a side stretch and not a forward fold. Reaching out as we breathe in, and then exhaling, sinking over a little bit more toward the right. One more deep breath in. Exhale, sink. Inhaling, we'll come all the way back up. And let's continue to warm up the spine a little bit. If you're in your chair or on the ground, we'll put our hands on our knees. And on the inhale, we're going to pull back with the elbows, open up through the chest. We're going to curve the spine so that we're opening up the chest, rounding the spine. Pull the elbows back, deep breath in, reach up, look up with the face, open up the front of the throat. And on the exhale, we're going to reverse that. We're going to lengthen up through the arms, pull the stomach in as much as it'll go, round the back like kind of an angry cat. We're going to tuck the chin in toward the chest. Inhale again, elbows pull back. We open up through the chest, looking up, pulling the shoulder blades together in the back. Exhaling, rounding the spine, pulling the stomach in, lengthening out through the arms. Tuck the chin in. Let's do that again. Breathing in, open. And exhale, pulling the stomach in, tucking in the chin. Now let's go ahead and come back to center. Do just a few little breathing exercises here. So again, come back to whatever your comfortable seat is. If you're in your chair, just making sure that the feet are firmly planted on the ground. This first breath is called a cellular breath. And we're going to start by breathing in and just noticing the feeling of the air entering the nostrils, entering into the lungs, and the whole body expanding with the breath. And then on the exhale, breathing out the nostrils, just notice how the body contracts as the air exits the nostrils. Breathing in, just notice how the whole body opens with the breath. And breathing out, everything contracts. This time as we breathe in, we're going to especially notice how the lungs fill. So focusing on the lungs, notice how the lungs fill from the bottom, the middle, all the way up to the top. And then on the exhale, notice how the lungs empty and contract from the top, the middle, all the way down to the bottom. And paying attention to the lungs themselves as we breathe in, filling them, feeling them fill up like a balloon. And exhale, they contract. Next breath in, we're going to imagine how the air is moving into the cells, into each and every cell of your body. And you might even imagine, if you can, at a cellular level, everything getting bigger and bigger and more expansive. And on the exhale, everything contracting. Breathing in at the smallest, tiniest level of your body, everything expanding with the breath. And everything contracting with the exhale. When you're done with that exhale, we'll just go ahead and just come back into stillness. Just notice how the body feels. Notice how your heart is beating. Notice if the body feels relaxed or if there are points of tension and contraction. We're not trying to change anything right now. We're just noticing. Here we're going to come to a balancing Nadi Shodhana breath or alternate nostril breath. So for this one, you take your right hand and you can turn your palm away from you to start with, and we're going to lift up the index finger and the middle finger. And then we'll turn the hand back towards you and we'll rest the index finger and the middle finger right in between the eyebrows or right at the top of the bridge of your nose. The thumb opens up then, and we're going to use the thumb to open and close the right nostril. You don't have to push very hard, just very, very delicate opening and closing. The nostril is like a little flap more than a door that you have to really open and close. And then the ring finger and the little finger, the ring finger is what we're going to use to open and close the left nostril. So once you've got a sense of how that works, we'll go ahead and use the thumb to close the right nostril. We're going to take a deep breath in through the left. Count to 4, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to close the left nostril. 2, 3, 4. Open the right and breathe out the right. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in the right nostril. 2, 3, 4. Go ahead and close it. Open the left and breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Let's do another full round. Breathe in the left. 2, 3, 4. And close. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out the right. Breathe in the right. Close and hold. 2, 3, 4. Open the left and breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And let's remove the hand, and once again, let's return to a normal breath. And let's just check in and see the effect of that breath. Nadi Shodhana or alternate nostril breathing helps to balance the two hemispheres of the brain, helps us to focus and to calm the body. So just noticing and seeing what that breath might have done for you. And if it didn't do anything, that's fine too. Doesn't always right away. As we go through the rest of our practice this evening, I would like to offer an affirmation that you may like to have in mind throughout the practice. Something like a mantra that you can return to if you need to focus. And that is, I affirm the replenishing, nourishing darkness within. I affirm the nourishing, replenishing darkness within. This is an excerpt from a short poem by Wendell Berry. To go in the dark with the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without light. And find that the dark too blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. We're going to continue with just a few more stretches before we go to our Yoga Nidra. If you are in your chair, what you can do at this point is to simply bend forward, reach down with the hands as much as possible. And what we're getting is a stretch in the lower part of the spine. So we're really aiming for a stretch in that lumbar area, the lower part of the spine. So in your chair, just going to reach forward, slump forward, and let the head drop down. And if you're down on the ground and it's available to you, we're going to come into what's known as a child's pose. Or sometimes when I'm teaching in prisons or with traumatized groups, I call it a wisdom pose. Because it's not childish to get into this pose. It's showing your wisdom to know when it's time to come into this resting pose. So wisdom pose or child's pose, there are two ways we can do it. We can keep the knees together, and then we're going to fold forward and let the stomach drop down on top of the knees. That can be really nice, especially if you have any digestive problems. It can kind of help to put pressure on the internal organs, right? So that when we release, it infuses those organs with fresh blood. So that can feel really nice, especially again, if there's any digestive issues going on. Otherwise, it might feel more comfortable to separate the knees apart, keep the toes together, and then we're going to sit back down onto the heels. And then we'll slowly start to walk the fingers forward. And just notice if this is already too much pain, too much stress on the lower back, you might just hover right like this on your elbows. But if it feels like there's some more room to stretch, there's some more openness, you can come all the way down onto your forehead. And so. And one more possible adjustment, if once you do this, you notice, ow, I've got some aches in my shoulders, you can alleviate that a little bit by keeping the arms down at your sides rather than bringing them forward. So you have so many different options here, right? You're in your chair, leaning forward, you're on the ground with your knees together, or you're on the ground with your knees apart. Arms are back to your side, arms are out forward, you're all the way on your forehead, or you might be on your elbows. So you might want to play with those different options, see the one that works best for you this evening, remembering that our goal for tonight is to be in a restful, peaceful state. And so we're not so much trying to build strength or flexibility, but just find this place of calm. So once we're there, we're just going to hold this for about a minute. Continuing with the deep breath. And when you're ready, we'll go ahead and if arms were out front, we'll walk the hands back in toward the body. I'm going to sit back up. We're going to move from here into a Sphinx pose, which is a very gentle back bend. So if you're in your chair, I invite you to do that little stretch that we did earlier on, where you're pulling the elbows back. You're opening up through the chest and you're getting a little bit of a curve there in the spine. So we're trying to get a little bit of that back bend here. So if you're in your chair, just coming back into that position where we were before when we were warming up, hands on knees, pull the elbows back, open up through the chest. If you're on the floor, we're going to come into a Sphinx pose. So we're just going to come onto our stomachs. I'm going to bring my elbows right underneath my shoulders. My fingers are wide apart on the floor, and I'm pushing onto the pads of each finger. So I'm protecting my wrists. And then I'm going to imagine that I'm pulling the elbows back, but I'm not actually going to pull them back. They're super glued to the floor, right? But I'm doing that same motion that I showed before, where I'm opening up through the chest and getting a little curve in the spine there. So we've got a little gentle back bend. So imagine you're pulling the elbows back, but keep them locked in place right under your shoulders. And we're going to open up through the chest, pull the shoulder blades together, look up, open through the front of the throat. Maybe let the eyes close if that feels good, or just be softly focused. And while we're here, if we're noticing any clenching in the lower spine, just want to try to breathe into that space and let it open up. So what we're trying to do here is open up that space where a lot of us hold a lot of tension. And we'll just take a few deep breaths here. One more deep breath. Again, just notice if there's any clenching in the backs of the legs or in the lower spine. See if you can't breathe into that space where there's tightness, and just let it relax and let it open. And on an exhale, we'll go ahead and come out of that. You can let the head come all the way down to the floor. And then we'll use our hands to help push us back up into a seated position. If that's challenging, you can also just roll over, flip over onto your back, because we're going to come back onto our backs. If you're in your chair, this is going to be a little twist. So if you're sitting in your chair, all that we're going to do is we're going to twist over toward, first get nice and tall, get the spine nice and long. And then we're going to twist so that the right hand is back behind us. Maybe it's on the back of the chair even. And the left hand is either on the outer side of the right thigh, or if you're on a chair that you can grab onto and help pull you a little, twist a little bit more, you can do that too. So chair folks, we're just going to be seated, doing a little seated twist. If you're on the ground, we're going to also get the legs involved. So if you're on the ground, you have a few options. I like to cross. Let's see, we're going to cross that way. We're going to cross the left leg over the right. And then we're just going to let the knees drop over toward the right. Yeah. And then we'll go ahead and bring the arms out to the side or into a T. And we're going to twist over toward the left. So I know chair and floor people are twisting in opposite directions. I messed up. It's all right. We'll fix it the second time around. So if you're on the floor, we're twisting over toward the left. Trying to keep that left shoulder down in contact with the floor. Don't let it lift up. Maybe that means your knees aren't so far down. Maybe they're way up here. That's okay. So you might want to look over in the direction that you're twisting away from. We'll take several deep breaths here. And as you're here, if you're on the floor, you might want to just allow gravity to start to pull the knees down. You don't need to use your muscles to push them down. Just let gravity naturally pull them. And when you're ready, we'll go ahead and come back center. Uncross the legs. For those of you who are in your chair, you're going to want to do the same thing to the other side. So this time turning over toward the left. Left arm's going to come around behind you. Right arm's going to come to the outside of your left thigh. You're going to sit up nice and tall before you initiate that twist. And if you're on the floor, we're going to do just the opposite. So this time we're going to cross the right leg over left. Let the knees drop over toward the left. And then we'll turn to look in the direction of our right hand or right elbow. We're trying to keep that right shoulder, if you're on the floor, I'm going to keep that right shoulder in contact with the ground at all times. And we'll just breathe. And when you're ready on the inhale, we'll bring the knees back center and uncross the legs. And if you're in your chair, you'll just come back center, sit nice and tall, take a deep breath. I'm getting ready to go into our Yoga Nidra now. So I invite you, before we do that, if you have any last stretch you want to do or a yoga pose that would feel really good to you right now, I invite you to do that, whatever that might be. For folks on the ground, it might feel good to bring the knees in toward the chest and to rock a little bit from side to side. If you're sitting in your chair, might feel good to reach up with the arms and maybe do some little side stretches. Whatever your body is calling to you to do, that's going to be the one thing that's going to help you really come into a very restful pose. And then once you've done that, I invite you to get set up for our Yoga Nidra. So if you are in a chair, you just want to make sure that you have something to prop your legs up on, and make sure you have enough padding behind you that it's not going to create tension and pain, and you're not going to be slumping too much, rounding your spine in your seat. So the one thing we want to avoid in a chair is sitting like this. So if you can be padded so that you can be leaning back a little bit with the legs out front, that would be ideal. Otherwise, if you're down on the floor, this is where you want to grab that pillow, maybe a couple of blankets, whatever it's going to take for you to feel really, really comfortable, right? So you just want to feel like you're getting tucked in for a deep, deep hibernating kind of sleep here. And there are a few different things you can do to make that feel even nicer. If you have an extra blanket, sometimes I like to roll it up and then put that behind my knees. That can create a little bit of padding for the knees. They can feel really nice. So you just decide what's going to feel good for you and get all set up. And once you're there, I'm going to sit up to talk to you, but once you're there in your Yoga Nidra pose, no rush to get there, take whatever time it takes for you to get set up. Once you're there, go ahead and let the eyes close. If you're doing this on your own later, and you want to invest in one of those eye pillows, kind of put a little bit of weight on the eyes, that can feel so nice, especially one of those that's scented with lavender, something like that can be just wonderfully restful. Don't need that right now, but for future, that's a lovely thing to add to this practice. So letting the eyes close. And we'll just start by focusing on the breath. And you'll notice throughout this practice, especially at such a busy time of year like this, when many of us have really long to-do list and thinking about those last presents we didn't get or whatever it might be, we're just going to let those thoughts be sort of pushed off to the side just for a while. We don't need to eliminate them entirely, but for right now, just kind of imagine that you are putting them off to the side and then coming back to the breath. Just noticing the breath. And as you're settling in, I invite you to see if you can't make yourself 10% more comfortable than you already are. What small adjustment can you make to be just that little bit more comfortable? And then beginning to open the senses. With your ears, notice the sounds around you. Not judging them, just noticing the sounds that you hear. They might be in the room you're in or further away. And begin to notice the light behind your eyelids. Begin to notice the weight of the body on the surface that you're resting on. You might notice any parts of the body, any skin that's exposed. How does the air feel where it's touching your skin? You might notice if there are any smells. Maybe notice even if there's a taste in the mouth. It's opening up through all of the senses. Feeling the felt sense of your body and your breath gently flowing in and out. I invite you to sense your mouth and your jaw. Noticing any tension you might be holding in your face. Sensing your ears. Sensing your eyes. Noticing any holding or tension behind the eyes. Sensing your whole head, back of the head, neck, shoulders and upper back. Notice what's present. You don't have to change anything. Just notice what is. Thoughts may be coming and going, again, without judging them or holding on to them. Just notice them come and go. And notice the sensations that arise in the body as they also come and go. I invite you to bring attention to your left shoulder. Take a deep breath in. Pause at the top of the inhale. And then when you exhale, imagine that you are exhaling out the left arm. And as you inhale, imagining that you are inhaling up the left arm to the left shoulder. Exhaling out the left arm. And try to do that just a few more times, imagining the breath is moving up and down that arm. Now breathing in, we'll notice the right shoulder. And as you exhale, imagining that you are exhaling out the right arm, all the way out through the right fingertips. And as you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in through the right hand and the breath moves up the right arm, back up to the shoulder. Pause once you're there. Exhaling again as though you're breathing with your right arm. A few more times like that. On the next inhale, bringing awareness to both shoulders. Pause at the top of the inhale. And then on the exhale, imagining that you're breathing out both arms. The exhale moves out past the fingertips. And imagining that when you breathe in, you're breathing in through your hands and the breath moves up the arms back up to the shoulders. Breathing in and out like that. Just feeling the flow of the breath and the full extent of both arms. And bringing awareness to the torso, to the chest, back, the belly, the hips. I invite you to bring awareness to the left hip. Take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, again, we're going to imagine you are breathing out the left leg all the way out through the left foot. Breathing in, imagining that the air is traveling up that leg, back up to the hip. Breathing out the leg. Just taking a few more breaths like that, bringing full awareness and focus to the sensation of your left leg. Bring awareness now over to the right hip. Take a deep breath in. On the exhale, we're going to imagine that we're breathing out the right leg all the way out through the right foot. And as we breathe in, awareness travels back up that right leg, back up to the hip. Breathing out. And then just noticing the full extent of the right leg. On the next inhale, we'll both notice both hips. This time as we breathe out, we'll imagine that the air is moving down both legs out through the feet. And on the inhale, it travels back up the legs, back to the hips. It's this kind of lovely ocean feeling, like waves traveling up and down the legs. And just noticing the sensation. And by the way, if as you're doing this, you come across a place where there's some pain or there's some tension, just sending some extra love. Just noticing those places and sending some love there as the air moves down and back up. Now sensing the entire body, legs, torso, arms, head, neck. Feeling the felt sense of the body and the space all around the body. Letting go of needing to control anything. Just finding the body breathing itself. Being breathed. I invite you to take a moment, notice where you might be struggling against yourself in some way. You can welcome your experience as it is, with no self-judgment. And if it feels right, to allow yourself in this moment to stop the fighting, the struggle, maybe with what you think the body should feel like, or how the thoughts that should be there, just letting that go. Allow yourself to be just as you are. Resting here, feeling yourself as a body in your body. And the breath gently flowing in and out. And finally, I invite you to imagine at the level of your heart, in the spot where your heart is, a faintly glowing light, like the sun on the horizon at the dawn of the winter solstice. Very faint, weak, not very warm, just a faint light. As you breathe in, the light gets warmer, stronger, bigger, starts to fill the lungs. And as you breathe out, maybe it gets smaller again. And the next breath, it gets even bigger, warmer, fuller, lighter, completely filling the lungs. And then as you breathe out, the body falls back into a beautiful, peaceful darkness. Next breath in, that ball of sunshine, that ball of light gets bigger and bigger, maybe fills the whole torso, light and warmth and color. And as you breathe out, the body is filled with a beautiful, peaceful, caring darkness. Continue to breathe like that. Every time you breathe in, that little ball of sunshine gets bigger and bigger and brighter and warmer and fills more of your body. And every time you breathe out, you sink back into a blissful, peaceful darkness. Breathing in light, breathing out darkness. continuing to breathe in this way, imagining that sunlight inside of you and that darkness inside of you, taking turns. One growing while the other contracts, one expanding while the other gets smaller. Finding balance. Finally, before we come out of this yoga nidra, you may be mostly asleep now, and that's all right. But I invite you to take a snapshot of what it feels like to have this balance between the light and the dark within the body. And perhaps to imagine yourself going through the rest of this evening, maybe waking up tomorrow, going through the day tomorrow with that balance, that equilibrium between the light and the dark, the energy of motion and action and change, and the stillness and the quiet, the deep dark. And then once again, going as slowly and as gently as you want to go, beginning to bring awareness back into the body. Perhaps noticing once again the light on the other side of your eyelids, the sounds in the room or beyond the room, the taste in your mouth, smell you might be aware of, the feel of the air on your skin, the weight of your body on the floor or in your chair. And you might want to start to wiggle the fingers and toes a little bit. Might feel good to turn the head from side to side. Move the shoulders a little bit. When you're ready, if you're in your chair, you can just return to a regular, comfortable seated position. If you're on the floor, it might feel nice to roll over to one side, kind of pull the knees in, put your hands underneath the side of your face. And using your arm strength to bring you back up into a seated position, moving slowly, very gently, no rush. And before we open our eyes and go about the rest of the evening, I would like to offer this poem by Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Rebecca Parker, called Winter Solstice. Perhaps for a moment, the keyboards will stop clicking, the wheels stop rolling, the computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant, in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as Earth hangs poised in the crystalline darkness, and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season when holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries. We are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one whose gestures alter Earth's axis toward love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars, cradled in a swaying embrace, rocked by the holy night, babes of the universe. Let this be the time we wake to life, like spring wakes in the moment of winter solstice. And if you would join me in bringing your hands together in the position of a prayer or a yoga mudra, and bringing the thumbs to rest at the sternum, and bowing the forehead down toward the fingers to open the back of the neck. And I invite you to join me in chanting one Om, which is said to be the sound of the universe. Taking a deep breath in. Om. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste.